vrappa tolvio vio ninrontirederat. Tolvrio pregelat.
She told us who she was, not once, not in whispers, but over and over, in fire, in fury, in prophecy, in pain. We saw her chained, humiliated, burned, betrayed. And when she rose from the ashes, we called it destiny. When she spoke of fire and blood, we called it poetry. When she looked at the world that enslaved her and said she would break the wheel, we called it hope. But Daenerys Targaryen never lied to us. We simply chose to hear what we wanted.
I'm here to free the world from tyrants. That is my destiny. And I will serve it no matter the cost.
Chapter 1. The Girl in Chains. The first time we meet her, Daenerys is not a conqueror. She's a child sold like property, traded by her brother for the promise of an army. Her world begins with surrender. Her body, her freedom, her name handed over to men who see her as nothing but leverage. Yet even then, there's something volcanic beneath the surface. When Viserys touches her cruelly and she whispers, "You don't want to wake the dragon," it sounds like fear. It isn't. It's a warning. The dragon is not her brother. It's her. Daenerys' earliest transformation, from pawn to queen, is steeped in the language of rebirth. Fire doesn't destroy her, it reveals her. She steps out of Drogo's pyre with 3 newborn dragons, not as a goddess, but as the embodiment of her own rage. That moment, hailed as triumph, is also prophecy. The fire that births her is the same fire that will one day consume everything she loves. But we didn't see it that way. We saw her as a savior, a woman rising from ashes, freed from her oppressors, her dragons the symbol of destiny rather than destruction. We mistook the heat of vengeance for the warmth of justice, and that was our first mistake. She was never born to save the world. She was born to remake it, no matter the cost. Chapter 2. The Savior's Illusion. As her legend grows across Essos, Daenerys' language shifts, but the warning remains. She speaks of mercy, yet her mercy burns cities. She speaks of freedom, yet her freedom demands obedience. Each victory adds another stone to the pedestal we build for her, and she climbs it willingly, believing herself chosen. When she crucifies the masters of Meereen, we cheer. When she locks her dragons away for killing an innocent child, we mourn her pain, not the child's. We justify every act because her intentions feel pure. We mistake righteousness for rightness, a subtle but deadly difference. And she keeps warning us. Every time her eyes glaze with fury, every time she talks about fire as cleansing, every time she tells Tyrion or Jorah or anyone who will listen that she will take what is mine with fire and blood, she's not being poetic. She's being literal. Her compassion is real, so is her wrath. But the line between them is thinner than anyone wants to admit. Daenerys doesn't crave cruelty, she craves order. And in her mind, fire is the surest path to peace. That's what makes her so dangerous. She doesn't burn because she hates, she burns because she believes. And belief, untempered by reflection, becomes fanaticism dressed as justice. Chapter 3. The Breaker of Chains and the Maker of Fire. When Daenerys becomes the breaker of chains, she inherits not only the title of liberator, but the curse of idealism. Every chain she breaks becomes another weight around her soul. Each city she frees collapses into chaos once she leaves. Her answer is always the same: to burn what resists her and rebuild it in her image. She doesn't realize it yet, but she has stopped freeing people. She's begun remaking them. When she conquers Astapor and Yunkai, she gives freedom but demands loyalty. When she takes Meereen, she preaches peace but crucifies dissenters. Every time someone questions her, she reminds them, "I will answer injustice with justice." And yet her justice increasingly looks like vengeance. But the world doesn't challenge her because her rage feels righteous. We watch her punish slavers, tyrants, soldiers who kill children, and we applaud. How easy it is to justify destruction when it targets monsters. How simple to forget that fire doesn't choose its victims once it's unleashed. The foreshadowing is relentless. Her dragons grow wilder, her temper shorter, her advisors fewer. When Jorah betrays her, she burns him with words. When Tyrion fails her, she isolates him. When Missandei dies, her grief turns nuclear. And still we tell ourselves, she suffered so much. She deserves to win. But Daenerys never asks for victory. She asks for the world to bend. Chapter 4. The Fall of Mercy. By the time Daenerys sails to Westeros, she has already learned that mercy is a currency she can no longer afford. Every betrayal, every friend lost, every promise broken, chips away at the woman who once whispered "Misa" to the freed slaves of Meereen. The girl who once protected strangers now trusts no one. When she reaches Dragonstone, she looks out at the land that should have been her birthright, and her voice hardens. "I was born to rule the 7 kingdoms, and I will." Not "I will serve," not "I will heal," but "I will rule." The warning is there, as it has always been. We just refuse to hear it. We tell ourselves she'll stop, that Jon will temper her, that Tyrion's wisdom will guide her. But her mercy has become exhaustion, her hope reduced to instinct. When Missandei dies on the walls of King's Landing, she doesn't just lose her friend, she loses her final tether to restraint. Her eyes burn with the same fire that once freed the innocent. And when the bells ring, the sign of surrender, she looks upon that world she tried to change, the world that never accepted her, never understood her, and she decides that if she cannot fix it, she will end it. We're horrified, but she warned us. She warned us in Karth when she said, "I will take what is mine with fire and blood." She warned us in Meereen when she said, "I will crucify the masters." She warned us in Westeros when she said, "We will lay waste to armies and burn cities to the ground." She didn't lie. We just kept calling it prophecy instead of confession. Chapter 5. The Bells of Madness. The sky above King's Landing burns gold before it turns red. In that moment, as the bells toll surrender, the city breathes a sigh of relief, a false one. For just a heartbeat, the people believe mercy has come. Soldiers drop their swords. Mothers cling to their children. Tyrion dares to exhale. And then Daenerys moves. It isn't sudden, it's deliberate. The camera lingers on her face, and we see it, that quiet breaking, that silent choice. The sound fades, the world narrows, and in her eyes we glimpse every wound the world has carved into her. Viserys' cruelty, Drogo's death, the betrayal of Jorah, the loneliness of leadership, the death of her children, the execution of Missandei. Every loss condenses into clarity. This world, she decides, can never be kind. And then she burns it. The dragon's shadow sweeps across the city like judgment. Fire rains from the sky, and innocence is swallowed whole. It's not rage that drives her, it's conviction. In her mind, she is not destroying, she is purifying. Every scream is another link of the wheel breaking. Every building turned to ash is a promise fulfilled. She told us what she would do. We just didn't believe her. Jon watches from the streets, horror replacing love. Tyrion watches from the towers, guilt devouring reason. Arya runs through fire and rubble, the embodiment of every soul Daenerys never saw. But in the skies above them, the queen rides her dragon like an angel of retribution, radiant and terrible. And in that image, Game of Thrones delivers its most devastating truth, that every savior, if left unchecked, becomes the tyrant they swore to destroy.
not because they are evil, but because they believe too completely in their own righteousness. Daenerys doesn't fall into madness, she ascends into it.
Chapter 6. The Lonely Queen of Ashes. When the smoke clears, silence reigns. The Red Keep crumbles. The throne she crossed oceans for lies before her, cold, sharp, and gleaming beneath a ceiling open to the ruin she created. Snow drifts through the air, mingling with ash, as if even the sky can't decide whether to mourn or to bury her. She walks toward that throne, eyes bright with something beyond triumph, a child's wonder. For a heartbeat, she's not the conqueror. She's the girl from Dragonstone, dreaming of home. The throne she touches is the echo of her father's madness, the seat that has burned her family for generations. And yet, when she lays her hand on it, there is peace in her face. Because for her, this is not horror, it is fulfillment. Daenerys never wanted cruelty for cruelty's sake. What she wanted was order, a world remade without corruption or fear. But in her need for purity, she forgot that mercy without humility becomes tyranny. She never learned to doubt herself because no one close to her survived long enough to make her. Her tragedy isn't that she changed, it's that she never did. Jon enters the throne room as if entering a tomb. His voice shakes with grief, not anger. He pleads with her to see what she's done, to realize that her dream has become a nightmare. But Daenerys doesn't hear him. She's beyond persuasion now. She sees herself not as destroyer, but deliverer. To her, every corpse is collateral for the paradise she believes she's dulding. When Jon's blade pierces her heart, she looks surprised, not betrayed. The camera holds her eyes, soft and almost grateful, as if some small part of her always knew this was how her story had to end. The dragon's scream that follows is not rage, it's mourning. Drogon's fire melts the Iron Throne, not Jon, because even the beast understands what she could not, that the thing she chased destroyed her long before she touched it.
Chapter 7. The Dragon That Dreamed of Mercy. There are moments, long after the fire has dimmed, when silence becomes the loudest sound in Westeros. The streets of King's Landing are gray now, a mausoleum built from ambition's ashes. The people whisper her name in two tones, one trembling with fear, the other with sorrow. Daenerys Stormborn, the breaker of chains, the mother of dragons, the queen who could not stop burning. But what lingers more than her fire is her dream, the dream that mercy could exist in a world built on cruelty. The tragedy of Daenerys Targaryen is not that she lost her mind, but that she lost her faith in the world's capacity for change without destruction. Her vision began as compassion, the fierce, righteous kind that only the broken can feel. She freed slaves not for glory, but because she had known chains. She killed tyrants not for conquest, but because she had once been powerless. Yet, like every dreamer who stares too long into the heart of a corrupt world, she began to mistake fear for justice and ruin for renewal. In her mind, every city she burned was a cleansing, every enemy a necessary sacrifice, every scream a step toward peace. The purity of her goal became poison, because Daenerys never learned that the fire that warms is the same fire that consumes, and that mercy cannot be delivered from the sky. It must be built from the ground, by hands that still remember what it means to tremble. What breaks the heart most is that she believed herself merciful to the very end. In the throne room, when she tells Jon that the world will be better because of her, there is no malice in her voice, only conviction. She sees herself as the world's final kindness, the one who will destroy the rot so others may live free. Her tears at the side of the throne are not for power, but for peace.
She thinks she has finally arrived at her destiny, never realizing that destiny and delusion have the same face when seen through the haze of certainty. Daenerys' tragedy is not simply that she burned the innocent, it's that she no longer knew the difference between the innocent and the guilty. The girl who once soothed children in the streets of Meereen with gentle hands is gone, replaced by a queen who believes her will is the only mercy left. That is how heroes die in silence, not with cruelty, but with certainty. Yet still, somewhere in the ruins, her mercy breathes. In the orphans she once freed, in the soldiers who once followed her for love, not fear, in the memory of a young queen who believed that compassion could survive empire. She was wrong, but she was also right. Mercy is the only true power worth chasing. She just forgot that to wield it, one must remain human. Daenerys Targaryen was not madness in motion. She was heartbreak unhealed. She was the living proof that even the purest fire burns if it never finds rest. And perhaps that is why her story endures. Because we see in her not the monster we fear, but the believer we all once were.
Chapter 8. The Legacy We Chose to Forget. Daenerys Targaryen's death was never meant to feel like justice. It was meant to feel like grief. The grief of watching idealism curdle into extremism, compassion harden into certainty. We mourn her not because she was innocent, but because she was human. In the end, she became the very wheel she swore to break. But that doesn't erase the truth of her beginning, that she was a victim first, a survivor second, and a tyrant last. The world built her monster long before she claimed it. Every betrayal fed it. Every cheer from the crowd who called her Mother of Dragons fed it too. We built her cage of adoration, and when she broke free, we were shocked to find fire waiting on the other side. She was not born mad. She was made desperate. And yet, her story lingers because it reflects something uncomfortably real. Our hunger for saviors. We want heroes who burn the corrupt, who promise to fix everything. We forgive their excess, excuse their violence, sanctify their vengeance, until the fire reaches us. Daenerys didn't just warn her world, she warned ours, that anyone given enough power and enough pain can become the villain they hate. In her, the show distilled the oldest tragedy of power, that purity without compassion is indistinguishable from tyranny. We loved her for her strength, and that love blinded us to her warnings. We mistook prophecy for poetry, ambition for destiny, vengeance for virtue. She told us she would burn the world. We called it liberation. She told us she would take what was hers. We called it justice. She never deceived us. We deceived ourselves.
The Queen of Warnings. The camera fades to the blackened ruins of King's Landing. The wind carries ash through streets that once rang with laughter. A dragon's shadow passes over the sun, and for a moment, light becomes fire again. Then, softly, a woman's voice, calm, distant, haunting. I said I would bring fire and blood. I said I would break the wheel. But you never listened. You saw a crown, not the chains beneath it. You saw dragons, not the girl they burned. You saw destiny. I saw survival. The screen cuts to the image of Daenerys standing before the sea, her hair silver against the dusk. Her eyes hold both fury and mercy, the paradox that defined her. The voice continues, fading like smoke. Remember me not as the queen who burned the world, but as the warning, the one who loved it too much to leave it the same. The flames dim, leaving only snow, or ash falling on an empty throne.